Welcome back to OpenLine. As we went to break, we're watching a documentary, No Girl's Dream, about human trafficking in Tennessee, produced by You Have the Power. A very powerful documentary that is being shown across the state about this issue. I want to continue watching it, then we'll come back and we'll talk with our guests here and you can call in. But let's continue to watch No Girl's Dream.
Behind these doors, a tortured teenager tries to overcome the trauma she experienced at the hands of slave traders.
I was 15 when this all happened.
When we met her, she was understandably suicidal, didn't trust anybody, because somebody had befriended her on the way to and from the library.
He started filling my head up with, I love you, and, I really like you, you're pretty.
So when he invited her to a party, she went along. Next thing she knew, she woke up, she had been drugged, she was being raped by a room full of men.
He chained me to a pole in the basement, and while I was there, I saw a little girl there.
That young child haunts her to this day.
He sold me to a gang member.
I mean, they're slave owners, that's all they are. They're selling the flesh of another human being, and they get all the money.
Right now, there's a child locked in a dog cage where somebody has their basement opened up and a person pays them a fee and they say, do what you want with that child.
There's the lure and then there's the hold. And the hold can be drug addiction, the withholding of drugs. The hold can be malnourishment, I'm feeding you. The hold can be shame and humiliation. You're a whore now, you're not worth anything else. Nobody's ever going to love you, nobody's ever going to want you because now you're a whore and you're good for nothing else.
I would look in the mirror and I wouldn't know who I was looking at. I didn't even know who I was. I just knew what I had done.
And a lot of the times, this person in this ad is not going to be who's opening that door.
At the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation headquarters, an information analyst searches web pages on the internet, looking for missing or runaway children. They are among the most vulnerable to those who sell sex.
Within 48 hours of a run incident, 1 in 3 children are lured into prostitution. 1 in 3 children, within 48 hours. That's 1,400 of our kids in Tennessee at risk just by virtue of being a runaway.
It's unreal that a human being could have the capability to do something so dark to a child, an innocent child. They rob them of every piece of innocence.
On opening day of his trial, Michael Kohlmeyer clearly enjoys the attention when it takes several people to help him knot his necktie. He's accused of offering $5,000 to an online escort if she can provide him with a child to fulfill his desires. But the escort contacts a police officer who takes over the phone text conversation.
Detectives respond. Well, I know you said young. Any age range? The response is just over 8, not over 16, mostly white, a few black, well hurt. And he picks a 12-year-old child. He requests a photo.
The jury is apparently not impressed with his nicely knotted tie. Kohlmeyer is found guilty on all counts. It's the second time he's been convicted on charges related to children. He is the first customer ever prosecuted by the Metro District Attorney under Tennessee's enhanced human sex trafficking law and faces a possible sentence of 15 to 60 years in prison.
Tennessee's got some of the best laws in the nation for prosecuting these people. So I'm grateful for that.
Cases such as this are a disturbing reminder that there is no minimum age requirement for victims. New and stricter laws have been passed in Tennessee, recognizing that juveniles can't possibly be prostitutes. They are victims.
And in the case of an adult, that has to involve force, fraud, or coercion. In the case of a minor, it doesn't have to have any of those things. Any minor who's used for a commercial sex act in exchange for anything of value is legally a human trafficking victim.
If we don't recognize them as victims, then we're never going to get our hands around this kind of crime.
But these victimized women often go to jail, where they feel even more degraded, desperate and distrustful. It may be why some women take on what they mistakenly believe is a more empowering position. Kayla Bray, profiled here on social media, is an attractive young woman from a Memphis suburb. She certainly doesn't look like a predator. Maybe that's why 2 teenagers were easily convinced to go with her on a road trip to a Texas amusement park. But prosecutors say she went from victim to perpetrator with the help of a co-defendant, drugging the 2 teens and then selling them on the internet.
And absolutely, it's a lot easier to see a pimp as someone that is drastically different than that, than a blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl, petite girl. And of course, that probably has a lot to do with why the girls that she victimized thought that she was safe.
There's going to be a market for people because men are willing to purchase sex. And that has to be challenged. And I think that men have to challenge other men. And that's the one thing that I would encourage people to do, particularly men, to challenge other men about buying sex, because the consequences are trafficked kids.
The sadness and brokenness of the victims involved has inspired a new generation of caregivers. People like Rachel Sumner, willing to hold down 2 jobs so she can work for free to counsel victims.
We're sitting a couple blocks away from the National Civil Rights Museum, where Martin Luther King Jr. was shot on a balcony for choosing to believe that the value of a man, the value of a woman is inherent and it's worth dying for. You want to be a part of choosing to believe that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, just as he said.
Awaiting release from a correctional facility, Amanda believes her trafficking days are over and that somehow her situation can be a lesson for someone else.
They need to be encouraged. They need somebody there helping them to let them know that they're worth more than sex. So much more than that.
Recalling her past, when she was addicted and working the streets of Tennessee, has opened an old wound in Julia's heart. She has a new life now, as a mother with a husband who loves and comforts her. She shares her suffering as a warning to other young women.
You know, just because the people that you think should have loved you unconditionally no matter what, whether that be your parents or whoever, doesn't make you a bad person or unwanted or that there's something wrong with you.
I just got 10 years clean, but during that time, I've gotten married, so that old saying about you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, that is a lie, okay? Because I'm a damn good housewife. I just completed and got my bachelor's in psychology, and I'm getting ready to go back and get my master's in mental health counseling.
I have a good life today. I'm a graduate. I have a full-time job. I have an apartment. I have a car. I have people that love me. And it's possible. And sitting in that seat, it seems so impossible and so far away, and I know that feeling of hopelessness. I know it. And every time I pass a woman on the street, I feel it because it lives inside of me every day. But I'm here to tell you it's possible and it can be done. And you are worth so much more than just selling your body.
Allowing sex slavery to continue anywhere in our state will speak volumes against all of us. If we become desensitized to it, eventually accept it, and begin to look the other way, it's no longer who they are, it's who we are. Injustice anywhere is still a threat to justice everywhere.
This is not Pretty Woman. This is not a fantasy. This is not anything pretty or attractive or fun. This is just money.
But I don't think I've ever met a woman, even the oldest woman I've met who's being prostituted, who was there because she wanted to be. It's not a choice.
I would feel like I would be losing a part of who I am if I choose to know that there's girls right now in our city that are being exploited, that their value is being shredded, and I know and I'm not fighting.